Hello, dear sisters and brothers, fellow citizens of Earth. This is my latest Divine Truth Sharing update. It is the 3rd of July, 2020, and COVID-19 sadly is still definitely moving around the planet. But what a time to be alive. So much shifting going on. So what's been going on for me? I finished my first Divine Truth Sharing series of videos that covers the core teachings of the Paget messages. And I hope that you'll take an opportunity to watch them, maybe instead of television. Today, I recorded my first video in my new series called You Asked. And in the You Asked series, I'm going to be answering questions that are commonly asked in the Divine Love community. And today's initial video is what to eat. The next little bit of news that I want to share with you has to do with guidance and how it's been showing up for me lately. I feel it's very vital for all of us to understand how we can receive guidance because we are going to need it. I am receiving blessings in my life that I never could have dreamed, and I'm going to share a few of them with you today. So for one thing, I've never had visions before June, and now I've had 4. And one of the things that came through in my visions, an insight, was when the visions are crisp and vivid and the colors are vibrant, that is an immediate or near-term vision. And when the visions are a little bit as if they're filmed through a soft lens, they're in the future. All of my visions, all 4 of my visions, have been very clear in terms of what I was seeing. So there was no question mark about what I was seeing, and there was no question about what the meaning of the visions were. I've received 2 immediate visions and 2 coming attractions, if you will. The first vision that I received was of an American goldfinch, and I didn't know for sure that that was the name of the bird until I looked it up online and I found the picture. And it was really funny because I found the exact picture that I saw that flashed in my brain out of nowhere with no context. I'm going to put it in the video so you can see it, and it's exactly what I saw. The only difference is the vision in my brain, the bird was facing the other direction. But I wrote down what the meaning of this particular symbol is because I wasn't aware of it prior to this vision. And it symbolizes the importance of positivity and optimism and the value of happiness and joy and simplicity in our lives. And I can tell you that all 4 visions, near and future, support this basic concept of happiness and simplicity in our lives. So they bode very well. And it's important to keep those things in mind because as Earth heats up and the conditions of the Earth heat up, it's going to be very common and easy and understandable for people to fall into fear. But we need to not do that. We need to stay rooted in love and faith and happiness and hope and optimism. The next vision that I had, I'm going to also place a little picture in. It was a very crystal clear vision of a purple clover with little yellow flowers that has started to grow in my front garden. And the meaning behind this was, this is something that is naturally occurring and therefore very easy because it just happens by God's grace and not by anything I'm doing. It is beautiful, it is good, and if I allow it, it will take over my garden and I will not have to continue mulching and weeding. So I'm being guided to focus on and notice what is working and allow that and encourage it. At the same time, I'm also being encouraged to go ahead and pluck out the weeds and the things that I don't want in my life. And I was a little unclear on this So God tried to help me understand. He sent me a few little creepy crawlies in my house, which I don't normally have. And I'm like, there's a creepy crawly in my house. Ooh, I don't know what to do. I'm thinking, well, I don't want to kill it. God made it. It's a creature. Live and let live. That wasn't the message. So he sent another creepy crawly in my kitchen. And I'm like, I don't think I can let that one live. It was a scout ant. And I was like, I do not want that scout going back to his buddies and saying it's safe, So, and that was hard. Like, believe it or not, I had cognitive dissonance over killing a single ant. Yes, I did. I still didn't get the message. I've had wasps, angry wasps, living in the base of the outside storm door at the front of my house, which is the only entry and exit way I have that I can lock from the outside after I leave. So it's my entry and exit to my house, and I've been living with these wasps flying around my ankles for weeks. Live and let live, and I'm like, well, they're not going to sting me if I don't hurt them, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, again, not the message I was supposed to get. The night before last, I didn't even see them. It was the evening. I had come in from a nice little walk. I never saw the wasps. I was stung 3 times on my right ankle. I didn't even know what hit me because I didn't see them. And I suddenly screamed, and then I saw the wasps swarming, and I slammed the door, and it wasn't good. And immediate, fire and bright red and red shooting up my veins, which is really not a good sign. And my family has a history of severe allergic reactions to these kinds of stings. In fact, I almost lost my younger brother once to a bee sting. So I don't have an EpiPen in the house. But I'd never been stung before, so I was just kind of watching it. Well, obviously I prayed. I received the message at that point, and I surrendered to God, and I said, I get it, God. You want me to choose, and I don't want wasps at my front door, and I don't want creepy crawlies in my house. Therefore, I need to vanquish the creepy crawlies in my house and eliminate the wasps at my front door, because those are not something that I choose to allow in. And as I really did feel that I was getting the message correct for 2 reasons. One, the next time I saw a creepy crawly, this was all very close together, it did have a baby right under it. And the message was, look, unless you want these things to take over your home, you need to pull them out like weeds. They're no different from weeds. You choose, what do you want in your life? What do you not want in your life? Some things are going to be beneficial. Some things are going to be detrimental. You choose. And when I got crystal clear on that, thanks be to God, like magic, unbelievable. And this would happen within a few minutes, like within 30 minutes max, probably less, 15, 20 minutes of me getting 3 stings on my ankle that were angry red and kind of scary. They were gone. They were gone. So I guess the angels healed them instantaneously. And basically, I experience things like this frequently now, because the bottom line is God doesn't want us to suffer. He wants us to understand. He wants us to learn the lessons that we are meant to learn. And once we demonstrate that we've learned the lesson, the pain goes away. And so I want people to understand, when you're in pain, don't run from it. Sink into the lesson. Be guided. Learn. Make a choice to do something different, and you will be amazed at how quickly your situation will shift.
Shifting topics now, but I'm going to swing around and connect them.
First of all, the advent of the 24/7 news cycle into the culture of America is not healthy. It has never been healthy. It did not always exist. It used to be the news came on at 6 o'clock in the evening for that day. Once CNN and all the other cable networks came in and they started this 24-hour news cycle, there was a a monster that needed to be fed, just like that horrible plant in that awful Broadway musical called Little Shop of Horrors. And it's horrifying, all right, because they feed us garbage 24/7. And it's up to us to pluck out those nuggets that have value. But it's inundated in garbage. Now, I can recommend an app for your phone called the Good News Network, and they have only good news, and it's not John Krasinski's. It was way predates him, and it's free, and I highly recommend the Good News Network for your phone app. If you really want to look at something, it's wonderful. It's nothing but good news, and it's all true. That's one thing. The other thing is pay attention through your prayers, and also just sort of discerning, how do I feel? How do I feel before I take a look at the news? How do I feel after I take a look at the news? Did I learn anything of value from looking at the news? Should I continue? If so, how much, how often, and so on. And this is going to vary, not only by person, but day by day, because it depends on what's going on. So it's one way that we can tune in to our guidance. It's tuning into what do we choose to consume with regard to news. The day before George Floyd was murdered, I received crystal clear guidance. Do not consume any news, no current events, no variety shows, nothing that might expose you to what is going on for 8 days. Now, mind you, I continued to work during that time, but I followed that guidance. Because I followed that guidance, I had no idea what happened to George Floyd until 8 days later. During that 8 days, I got some kind of surprising texts and email messages from friends and relatives in other parts of the world asking, "Are you okay?" And I thought that was puzzling. I thought, well, yes, I'm perfectly fine. Why do you ask? On the 8th day, I received a phone call around midnight from my second born, who is currently living in Australia. And that's when I learned what was going on, what had happened to George Floyd, and the civil unrest that had followed immediately after. My second born, I shared with the fact that the angels had guided me not to know, so I hadn't seen in real time, and I was immediately instructed that, well, that was white lady privilege right there, which is, of course, true. I was privileged to not consume that information in real time, but the angels were also protecting me because there wasn't anything that I could productively or effectively do in real time. I was already praying. Now, of course, my prayers have shifted and can be more specific now, but I trust that God loves us and that there was a reason that I was protected from seeing that information in real time. And when we live this beautiful, guided life that is genuinely centered in our relationship with God, these are the kinds of small miracles that happen. We are given what we need when we need it, and the importance of that is our strength is conserved, so that when we need our strength, we have our strength. It's not depleted and run out by a feeling of despair, or a feeling of helplessness, or a feeling of hopelessness, or God forbid we should tumble into fear. None of those things are beneficial. I was protected for a reason that served God's purpose. That was at the beginning of June, right, or early in June. In the last week or so of June, many things happened. I got these visions. We received guidance in the Divine Love community that we needed to prepare for some coming upheaval And one of my friends in the community reached out to me on text and said, hey, did you hear the message? What do you think? I'm making a list. And I looked at the text and I thought, well, yes, I heard the message. I'm not making a list. I'm going to pray about it. I hadn't had a chance to pray about it yet. Not that there's anything wrong with making a list. My point was I hadn't had a chance to pray. Well, I started 4 o'clock in the morning to pray. Okay, God, we got this message. Shall I provision? Do I need to make a list? What do I need to do? And I'm usually, when I'm trying to pray for discernment like that, something specific, and I don't have a clue, it takes a while. Like I really have to dig in and formulate my asking. Then I really have to open and try to receive the answering. Then I reiterate it. I think I heard you say this. Is this right? Then I pray again and I discern again. And I usually do that 2 or 3 times. I call it, tugging on the rope or kicking the tires. I try to make sure, hey, did I get this right before I go take action? That did not happen. I just barely sat down to articulate the prayer, and all of a sudden it was like, get up, get showered, get dressed, get out, go. It was a work day, and I certainly had no intention of pretty much doing any of that before I started my work day. I never had a chance to make a list. I was back home by 8 o'clock in the morning, fully provisioned. I don't even know how it happened. I must tell you, I really don't know. It was that swift. And by 15-20 minutes later, everything was stored in a closet in a room upstairs, and I was told, just leave it there and don't even think about it now. Go on about your day. And I went and had a wonderful day. And I didn't know at the time. I said, well, I don't know whether these provisions will ever be needed or whether the angels just didn't want me to worry about it. And so they decided to take it off my plate, because it wouldn't be a concern. So, for example, I had provision for Y2K, and it was never needed. But it was kind of nice after that to go shopping in my basement for a few months after. It was not a problem. Nothing bad happened. So I thought, well, worst case scenario is I have it and I don't need it. Or maybe I do need it. Or maybe I don't need it, but my loved ones need it, or my neighbors need it, or who knows. That was a blessing for me. And if nothing else, I thought to myself, well, it saved me a lot of trouble. I didn't have to do all that kicking of the tires. I didn't have to try to think about making a list, and if I had tried to make that happen, I couldn't have made it happen as swiftly as it had, that's for sure. Again, these are the blessings that await the awakened life. And the last thing that I want to share with you, this just thrills me, absolutely thrills me. In 2009, I discovered that there is an 11-year cycle in my life. At least there has been, beginning in 1987. So in 1987, I had what I called a cosmic quake, and that was where God wanted me to do something I didn't want to do. And even though I knew it was God, because it was so much bigger than me, it was really obvious, even with my very immature spiritual life at the time. I did believe in God and I did have a prayer life. I could tell it was coming from God because it was huge, but I was also very stubborn and willful, and I didn't want to do it. And God wanted me to move to San Diego, California, and I was very happy where I am and did not want to leave. God had other plans, and basically God shut every door in my life. He was like, fine, you won't do it willingly. I'll just quake your whole life and make everything in your whole life fall apart. I will slam every door in your life, and then I'm going to open one and push you through it. That's precisely what happened. So, at least metaphorically speaking, that's what happened. And I ended up moving to California. Of course, it was the best thing that could have possibly happened, and many wondrous, wondrous blessings came out of that. But not the least of them was I realized, I'm not doing that again, because it was painful. And it was not a fun time, but I promised if that ever happened again, I would just obey. Fast forward 11 years, 1998. Well, this time it was what I called a spiritual crisis. I was railing at God. I had dug into every religion I could find and found all of them lacking. Because I had a knowing of God in my soul through my own prayer life. But I was looking for confirmation of what I knew in the religions. And I wasn't finding enough. So I really was kind of saying, God, you have got to show me the truth. Now, I did not find the Paget messages for a long time after that, but I was introduced to a whole new body of spiritual truth, which was apparently what I was ready for at the time. And it was a higher level of truth than I'd been given. And it did comfort me and it did set me off in a better direction. Still took a long time, but it was a benefit. 2009, 11 years after that, and now I see a pattern. Wait a minute, 87, 98, 2009, 7, 8, 9, there's a pattern here. And in 2009, I felt my whole life starting to quake again on the spiritual level. By that time, I was very far along the spiritual path. I had been praying every day, beginning each day with prayer before dawn since 1998, since that spiritual crisis in 1998, when I said, okay, I will put you at the center of my life. I've said you're the core of my being. I will put you at the center of my life. I will demonstrate that I've put you at the center of my life by dedicating myself to getting up before the sun every day and giving my day to you. So I'd been doing that for a long time. So when this quake started, I said, oh God, I know what this is. I felt this before. 1987, I got down on my knees and I said, take me, I'm yours. Anything, whatever it is you want me to do, I'll do it. I had no idea what a big ask that was. It was so much bigger than I ever could have possibly dreamed. And it had far-reaching effects. My entire life was completely uprooted, and not only mine, but the lives of my entire family. So I have had my whole life completely uprooted twice. And it was hard. It was really hard. And I went through 1987 and 1998 and 2009 by myself with only God and maybe one or two close friends who really couldn't quite understand but were kind enough to listen. So in 2009, of course, I took a look at the calendar to find out what's next, what's 11 years from now. Well, obviously, here we are, 2020. Welcome to the next major upheaval. And what I'm so excited about with 2020 is I am so not alone, and I'll never be alone again. Not only do I have now the Divine Love community, which is amazing, but I also have hosts of angels, and I know it. And I'm not going through 2020 alone. And you don't need to either. And none of us should. So let us come together in prayer. Let us be connected across the miles, whether we know one another or not. When we close our eyes and we tune in to the love that we have in our souls for God, right there, that is a signal that gets sent straight to His soul. And we're automatically connected through our Creator. And the last thing that I want to leave you with today is I want to recommend that you read a book called For the Love of His Own Creation. It is an extraordinary gift to humanity. It's a novel channeled by Yeshua ben Yosef, Jesus, through a medium named Jane Gartshore, and I'm going to include the URL for the website where you can download this book for free in a PDF, or you can purchase it online for an actual copy of the book that you can hold in your hands. While it is a novel work of fiction, It is meant as a teaching tool by Jesus to be taken very seriously, and he has encoded many, 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 many pearls of wisdom in that book. How to live in harmony with God in times of crisis and chaos. And I think it's very timely, and I highly recommend that you read it. And that is my Divine Truth Sharing update for today. May you know that you are deeply, truly loved. God bless.